Hello, Heroes Hearth Entertainment. My name is NotParadox, and I am going to be doing a Deathwing guide video for what is probably my favorite build, although I don't think that it's going to be the primary build. But it is certainly a fun build that does an unreasonable amount of damage. So the first thing that I want to mention is that I told these teams to play relatively normal comps, but that didn't really work. They're not really fans or anything, so I didn't want to like tell everyone what to play. So we ended up with some pretty bizarre comps, and we had a couple people on the enemy team who didn't want to actually team fight. They just wanted to split push all games. So bear with me on that. Excuses aside, though, this was a really interesting game to show, as it really showed some things that Deathwing does really, really well, and some things that Deathwing could really work on. So, one of the first things that you see is I do use my Q for wave clear here and there, but priority in this build is to utilize Incinerate. Now, Incinerate is in one form. It is in the Destroyer form. It is not in the World Breaker form. And Incinerate, what it does is after a few seconds, or well, after 0.75 seconds, you flap your wings, and it's a pretty large radius around you. You're about to see it in a second. Right there, that's the radius of Incinerate. It's a pretty big ability, hits a lot of things, and my entire build is going to be based upon that one ability right there. And you're going to see in team fights, I prioritize that particular ability more so than almost anything else. Level 1, I'm picking Dragon Soul. Dragon Soul in Destroyer form makes it to where your Incinerate heals you for 75% of the damage done. Let me press C so you can see where I'm actually watching. I'm watching Nazebo, and I'm waiting for the timeout of the current abilities so that I can drop down on Nazebo. I learned very quickly that going against Nazebo, you still get caught by the wall, so he does end up beating me in a couple trades early, and then after that, I kind of adjust, and then I can work on it from there. You see the range of my dash is rather low, so I don't go too crazy with that. I'm focusing, again, pretty much on Incinerate as much as I possibly can. So level 1, I am picking up that Dragon Soul so I can heal for 75% of the damage I deal on Incinerate. You're going to notice that this game I'm still playing around with the mechanics of Deathwing, and I learned pretty quickly that you really shouldn't ever use your Q unless you're trying to finish someone off, and even finishing someone off, it's pretty obvious where you're going to use your Q, so it's very easy to dodge it. In this case, I should have just grabbed the Fountain, but I wanted to save Fountain for the objective, so I waited out my global, I activated my global, and you're going to see the health very slowly head back to going to full. And in this case, it takes quite a while, but I want to stay up in here, and it actually costs us a lot of experience by staying up in the air, but I wanted to stay up in the air until the objective spawns, so I have like 40 seconds left before the objective spawns. Let's just say I was not thinking through some actions, but I mean, what do you do? First few times playing Deathwing, you got to practice some of these things. And you need to kind of prep your globals anyways, because before level 7, if you don't pick up Skyfall, or before level 7, you are going to have to always jump about 10 seconds before you need to jump, because you're going to have a 3-second window on Dragonflight and an 8-second cooldown once you're in the air before you can land down. Right here, I end up landing down. I just go immediately onto Nazebo. I don't get caught by the wall, but I do get kind of set off to the side of it. Level 4, I pick up Heat Wave. Now, this is where the entire build kind of builds around, which is Heat Wave. When you hit people with your Incinerate, you're going to gain a stacking version of Bronzebeard's Rage, except for it doesn't really heal you, but you're going to get a stacking version of that. I mean, every tank has their own version of it, but you're going to get one of those, and it ends up stacking to be a lot of damage against heroes. Now, remember, whatever damage it's showing is actually going to be doubled. So 20 damage per second is actually 40 damage per second because of your trait. You do 100% additional spell damage to heroes. Not just that, but it's also going to be increasing for each time that you use it. So you can see how fast I can get this Nazebo down, and we end up dropping him with a Q right there. So finishing people off with a Q is okay, but it's pretty easy to dodge. I think he didn't realize which direction I was using the Q in before he left, and he ended up getting taken out. I do still stutter step a little bit, but his slow-moving auto attacks, just not much that you can do with it. Either way, it's kind of how this is playing out. Now, again, I prefer Deathwing to be a solo laner. I think that he's a solo laner. So I would have actually liked to have a main tank, and then I could have just stayed in a lane, used my global to join the objectives only when the objectives are going on. But yeah, look at this the W heal is not insane, but it's not bad when you hit a couple things. Level 7, I picked Death Drop. Now, the reason I picked Death Drop is not necessarily for the first part of the effect, but the second part of the effect, which is lowering the cooldown of your abilities when you land down. So if you land down and hit someone, you can immediately use your W just a second later, and then there's just that small delay first. After the first objective, I immediately jump in the air, and you can see me kind of mousing over everything to figure out where I want to go. So I check bottom lane to see if there's anyone down bottom lane. I then check to see where Azmodan's going. I decide, hey, you know what, can we fight Azmodan, or should I go back to bottom lane? In this case, I decided to just go down to bottom lane because my team already was able to take out Azmodan. I head bot, I then land down. I didn't hit a hero, so I don't get the cooldown reduction. Wait 3 seconds, fire off an incinerate, and clear up this wave. I see a decent amount of fighting going on here, but I kind of want to focus on just getting the wave clear for now. I want to hit level 10s at a reasonable pace. So I go off, I do a little bit of lightning breath. Now you're going to see I turn off my lightning breath pretty early most times, and then I use my W and auto attacks to finish off the last little bit. I just don't really like using all of my energy. And you're also going to notice that in this particular build, I stay Destroyer form almost the entire time that I'm playing Deathwing. I have no real reason to switch forms because the cooldowns in Destroyer form are so low that I really won't need to ever use anything but that. You can see the amount of damage I do to these guys is already pretty crazy. Every time I see the enemies, I can just walk up, use a W, heal in 4 different sets, and then I'm also doing that crit damage to the enemies. I can use my W to slow, or my E to slow, W to do damage. I pick up a fountain right here and continue doing damage. I always like to charge in before I do my W, unless I land down and I have the room to do a W and then a charge, but for the most part, I like to have combo those abilities to some extent. In this case, I took a little bit too much damage off of his breath when I was walking in. Go for a couple different things, but we're going to end up heading out. We're going to utilize this global a little bit. Or sorry, I go mid first because I want to hit 10s. I even tell my team I'll get 10s. They decide to fight anyways, even though I'm getting 10s, which gets a little tricky. I probably should have V-pinged them back or something, but PTR's... Honestly, in general, PTR is tough because you could have one team have 3 Grandmasters and the other team have all bronzes because there's no MMR. You could also have people that are all in Europe that happen to end up on a North America server. So it can be really, really tricky to have decent games in PTR. That's all okay, honestly. So I'm going to Dragonflight. This is the big downside about Dragonflight. I jumped in the air and my global's not ready for 8 seconds. So the whole fight's over by the time I get my global back. Right here, I also make a pretty ballsy mistake, but you need to test out these things when you're learning these heroes, and I think this is something that a lot of people don't do enough in these games is limit test. Limit testing means that you need to test something to see how much you would actually do, and so that when this comes to a ranked game, you know whether or not you can do something. In this case, I limit test by trying to fight 2 people at once, ends up being 3 people at once. I mean, but look at this damage still. This is pretty crazy. I then use an ult in one direction, and then I use a dash and a W in another direction to take out the Medivh. I head back to kind of 1v1 this guy, and you can see this damage over time from my W flame that's going on, as well as my W that heals me every time that I cast it, and I can just kind of walk away when he tries to do his breath. Overall, you can tell I can fight 3 people at a time relatively okay as long as they are melee or as long as I can get to them. I see a fight that's approaching. I'm rather low health, so I don't want to do too much here. I'm just going to heal a little bit, and I'm going to walk away. My goal is to use my global to get healed back up, so I can then join my team at full health and full mana. We're winning this bottom objective already, so this gives me time to just gain some of my life back. As we get to level 10, well, we're past level 10 now. I took Burn Beneath My Shadow. My main reason why is because in W build, whenever I get into W range, I don't want to spend extra time to try to roar and fear people, and we're against one person who's permanently unstoppable, so I just don't want to deal with that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a stronger ultimate ability that's going to be a lot scarier. So I start off this fight by immediately going in, using Incinerate, and then I tried to dash, but there was a wall in the way, so I didn't really do anything. I do a breath to try to zone out Nazebo, but ultimately I don't like using energy for breath, and I don't like the delay of breath, so I focus heavily on just using my Incinerate to heal myself and do damage, and look at this damage. I'm literally just fighting 2 people doing a ridiculous amount of damage to these two people. And then I do end up using my ult, or at least I try to use my ult to get out, but it's got such a long wind up. It's after 2 seconds, so I was not able to get that wind up done to get out of that fight. Now, the cool part is it's uninterruptible. So if you are going to use it, you can get out, but the downside is that it takes so long. So if they're already doing damage, it's already done. Level 13, I'm picking up Fire and Fury. The goal of this is to lower the cooldown of my Incinerate. Remember, this whole build is based off Incinerate, and it does a lot of damage. I mean, you're going to see that later in this game, there's a point where I fight the Azmodan one-on-one, and you're going to see his giant health bar absolutely disappear. So once again, I immediately use my global. I want to just watch to see, maybe I join my team down in bot lane, maybe I stop this push up in top lane. And watch, even against a Deathwing with 5,000 health, look at the damage that I do to him. I do a W, I heal off of it, and just watch his health. I pick up a fountain here, and then I need to stop both of these people from pushing at the same time as I need to stop that wave. I do half of a Azmodan's health in just a few seconds. Then I'm going to pop my ult because I wasn't sure if he used his ult. And so the delay kind of, again, that 2-second delay. Do use my ult, and then I'm just going to immediately back. I can get my ult back if we just get the bottom objective because I did take the level 10, which not only increases the damage of my ult, but it resets it whenever an enemy fort or keep is destroyed, and I do not need to be anywhere near it for that to activate. So the goal here, the perfect goal that you can possibly do is you want to land down on someone, reducing your cooldowns, press Incinerate, which is then going to heal you, do damage, and activate your damage over time, which is your bread and butter of your DPS. Then you want to dash to someone and slow them, and while they're slowed, you want to get an auto attack, lowering the cooldown of your Incinerate, doing Incinerate again, and continue healing, dealing damage, and slowing as often as you possibly can. As long as you can do that, you can stay in fights for, I'm not going to say a very long time, but you can be a huge threat while you're in those fights. You can see, I mean, against all of these people, we're still doing a huge amount of damage and just holding our own, really. Now, I like to leave fights at about 30% health almost every time, and then I just pop my Dragonflight, wait for the enemies to, or my team to get vision, heal myself up a little bit, and get ready to jump back into the fight again. You can see where I am currently looking. I'm seeing if the enemies are going to stay here. We win this objective, and because we're already winning this objective now, the enemies are level 16, but the enemy Deathwing's already dead. So I'm in a pretty good spot here, and right there is a great time. I'm going to jump down, and I get lowered cooldowns. That means Incinerate first, then I'm going to dash in. I'm going to slow people. I can't catch up to the Zebo, so I just walk back down to my team. We get a nice kill, and then once again, Incinerate first, dash in, an auto attack slowed target, and my Incinerate's off cooldown one more time, and that is how we're going to be playing Deathwing in this particular build. We haven't even hit the points where I do a bunch of damage, but look at the damage that I'm dealing. Topping siege damage, topping hero damage, topping experience, topping literally everything as a Deathwing does. Now watch their health. I immediately jump on him. I then do my Incinerate. Dude's dead almost instantly. And then I immediately switch to this Deathwing, and look at this damage that we're doing. Even when the Zul Jin was standing still and healing, I literally was doing so much of his health. And once again, that fight, I mean, we did an extra 3,000 damage right there in that fight. So he's very, very strong in this build. Now, the challenge about this build is that you're kind of all in. You don't have a lot of answers. So right here, I tell my team, just get vision on the enemy and I can jump in. So where do I go? They get vision. I jump on in. I can start off with just an Incinerate, but we would have already gotten the kill. And then we focus on this objective. So guys, if you're checking this out on Heroes Hearth, on their YouTube, or on the website, and you don't know who I am, my name is NotParadox, and I do a wide variety of guide videos for all sorts of heroes in Heroes of the Storm. I like to add psychology or philosophy to my videos, and I try to upload 2 to 3 times a week, depending on any new stuff that's coming out. I do take requests slightly, but there are some heroes. I personally don't like doing a lot of videos on heroes that I don't play unless I can get someone else to work with on that particular video. So there are some heroes you'll see are a little bit lacking in there, but I think I hit about 80% of the roster for the most part. So feel free to check out any of those videos at my channel. You can go to youtube.com/NotParadox. And thank you, Heroes Hearth, for giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I will be having one guide on my channel if you want to see another Deathwing build, maybe one that's a little bit more reliable, a little bit less damage, a little bit more reliable. You can check out that build on my channel. I'm assuming the link's going to be in the description below. But yeah, thank you guys. Back to the game, let's talk about what we picked up. Level 16, we picked up Elementium Plating. So we gain a shield for 35% of our missing health. And then we regenerate 2% of our maximum health every second that shield is out. And then we, whatever our health is at the end of that, will make it to where, unbelievable. That one was so close, like a millisecond away from killing that Medivh. That being said, you will gain your armor based off of what health you were at when the shield ends. So if this heals you past a point that you broke one of your plates, you will then gain that plate back with Elementium Plating. So not only is this a great tool to bait enemy abilities where they might throw a pyroblast when you start getting low and you get this giant shield, or people dive in for that last moment and Genji dashes in and then suddenly you get this big shield and Genji dies. That's what Elementium Plating's for, but I do use this quite a lot to gain my plates back as well. It's a great ability, one of my favorite talents that he has and one of the strongest ones. Don't get me wrong, I think with some coordination, Gaze into Destruction would be even better, but without coordination, I think Elementium Plating is just way too good to pass up. Once again, that's essentially the major combo that we're going to be trying to go for in this build, and I'm going to show you guys this in try mode after this replay so you guys can see my favorite combos, as well as I'll go over the full build and the reasons why we're picking these talents. That being said, always keep an eye. I'd say the biggest thing that you need to be watching on Deathwing and keeping an eye for is keep an eye on your Dragonflight cooldown and keep an eye on where you expect the fights to go throughout the game. Keep an eye on the enemies. If you see Azmodan start roaming in a different direction, make sure to follow him. Check him, like, don't let him just free farm. Look at that damage. It's honestly crazy, guys. It does so much. So I see Azmodan roaming, and I see that my cooldown's almost up, so I'm going to be activating this so I can gain some life. And then because we were already winning top, I'm going to be looking at bot lane very, very soon to see if there's any way that I can stop this Azmodan from just endlessly split pushing. So you see my camera's still around here. Do keep in the corner of my eye the mini map, and now I have my abilities ready to drop, but I want to gain just a little bit more health, and I want to make sure that the Azmodan's actually staying before I jump down here. Not only is Azmodan down here, but so is the Deathwing. Now watch this: full health Deathwing, full health Azmodan, and I am alone. So you would think in a situation like this, how am I possibly going to do 7,000 health to one person and 5,000 health to another person? Well, just keep an eye out. I drop down. I do Incinerate first, and that's going to trigger 2 different stacks of my Incinerate. So I'm going to be doing, at this level, let's see, I'm going to be doing 140 damage per second to 2 different people. And I'm healing off of those. Then I slow him using my E, which means now that the enemy is slowed, I'm going to be doing 30% additional damage to him and lowering the cooldown of my abilities. And when I lower the cooldown of my Incinerate, I'm going to be able to stack 2 more times, so I'll be doing 280 DPS to both of these in fire damage alone. Then my auto attacks at this level are doing a considerable amount of damage, 521 damage to heroes. So I'm going to be doing 200 damage in just W damage over times. Then or almost 300 damage in W over times. Then I'm going to be doing Ws every couple seconds, as well as that E chomp whenever it is available. And now watch their health just drop. Look at this health. Gone. There goes Azmodan. I also killed a whole bunch of minions at the same time. He's going to use his ult. I jump on him. I could use my ult to follow, and that's something that I thought about here, but I was like, oh, maybe my team gets a kill. We get an amazing wall. Honestly, that was all Leoric. He got an amazing wall. He landed his W. He took out the enemy Deathwing. We can go for a boss here, and then we're going to be going for a maybe closing out the game. With the reset on Cataclysm, When you know you're going to be taking out a fort, you want to use it as early as possible, but you still need to be careful. Now watch this Medivh. Look at his health just drop. Even though he gets that shield on, his health drops. Now I have Elementium Plating, so if he continues to follow me here and he does get any more damage, I can always pop Elementium Plating to gain my plates back, or I could just walk away from this fight, use Dragonflight, gain my health and mana back as we already won the dragon, and I can tell my team to push with this dragon as we could go for one of these objectives. Or for the keep. In this case, we get bottom keep, we could walk away, get top keep, walk away, and then we're set up to win the objective. I hop down here, immediately get surrounded by Nazebo. Great play on his part, and then we just go for this, what's his name? Mal'Ganis. I take a lot of my health, and it's very risky if I want to go in, but I do. Because again, you got to limit test when you're in this, in these times, the first time playing these heroes, limit test when it doesn't matter so that you know what you can do when it does matter. So I use Elementium Plating to keep myself up, and then I use Incinerate to heal off of this enemy Deathwing really quick. I just move out of the way of his Q. I use my second ultimate ability to go through and see if I can't burn him. I use a Q like an idiot and take so much unnecessary damage, and then at this point we should be walking away from this fight. My team ends up staying, they get poked down a little bit, and that is going to end up leading to us just getting dominated. But let's take a peek at the damage dealt. I'm over 10,000 damage above second place this game, and I'm over, what, 30, almost 40,000 damage on above everyone else in Siege. As far as the experience, I am a little bit behind the first place, but I'm still above my entire team by a considerable amount. This is the power of W build, the Incinerate Deathwing, and it is absolutely insane. So we're going to fast forward up to the point where we come back into this game. There's really no way that we can win in the situation that we're in. They have someone who's already taken pretty much everything that we need. We need someone to defend here, we need to fight here, and we need to fight here all at the same time. It's really not going to happen, and we also need to clear this or else we're just going to end up losing through the minions. So my goal here was to clear this and then to go use my Z, try to help out at one of the objectives, but everything is too late at this point. Level 20, I do pick up Destroyer's Rampage, but I'll explain the pros and cons about this talent for sure. And at this point, this game gets closed out. So I want to show you guys a couple things in try mode just so you guys can see what you want to try to do in these team fights whenever you get an opportunity. So the first most important thing is we need to make sure that we are level 20, and we are going to so this is where it gets a little weird, to be completely honest, because we need to trigger something that we don't have vision to trigger. So we're going to take Dragon Soul, Heat Wave, we're going to take Death's Drop. Reasoning, I explained it in the game, we'll go over it if we need to. Fire and Fury, Elementium Plating, and then Destroyer's Rampage. So for the 6 seconds after landing in Destroyer form, we don't need to hit anything, we just need to land. We get some benefits. So we're going to toggle cooldowns, we're going to fly up. We're going to wait till the vision gets a little bit closer. We're going to untoggle cooldowns, and we're going to drop right about here. So the first thing that you want to be doing is you want to be using your W, then you want to slow them, and you want to auto attack, and W again. And look at how much damage we get in a very short amount. And Destroyer's Rampage works like Sonya's, where damaging a hero refreshes this ability. So you can see we're doing about 600 DPS with just those two abilities going. And you can remove, or you can keep moving around the team fight by using E, because you can see that the cooldown is very, very low when you're attacking. So you're constantly moving around the fight, doing 600 to 700 DPS, not including if you used an ult during that fight. Plus you're healing every time that your W is going out. If you can jump into the middle of a team fight with multiple enemies, watch how fast the DPS just skyrockets at this point, where you're essentially doing a W very often, hitting things over and over and over, and just reducing this cooldown as many times. I mean, your energy can't even keep up with the amount of like, we run out of energy before anything. But you can do huge amounts of damage in small amounts of time. So that's the ultimate goal. But in the early portions of fights, when you don't want to activate everything, your primary goal is to W to trigger your effect, jump in, and then try to lower the cooldown of your W. So you'd be using W at max range, charging in, lowering the cooldown of your W, and then using W one more time. That's going to be your bread and butter combo. That's 3,040 damage in a matter of a couple seconds if you can just do that. And then as far as Elementium plating goes, I'll kind of show you a little bit on why I like Elementium plating so much. But yeah, I mean, like, this is just, it's just crazy. So what I would do with Elementium plating is I would pick up something like a fountain, which normally wouldn't give you back your armor, and then I might pop Elementium plating to heal a little bit more, and use a W, and watch my plating come back. And now I have full plating again, and I didn't need to use my Dragonflight. So it's a super powerful build for not just damage, but also survivability by just taking that one talent. And it is just incredible. So guys, this is the Incinerate build. If you'd like to check out the other build that we've been playtesting, feel free to check out the video that is on my channel. Once again, youtube.com/NotParadox. And thank you again to Heroes Hearth for giving me this opportunity. If you like this style, let Heroes Hearth know. Check out my stuff. If you guys are fans of any of my videos and you happen to just stumble across Heroes Hearth because you wanted to see this video, guys, check out their guides. They have some awesome guides on every single hero, even the ones that I don't do video guides for. They've got some really, really cool content, so make sure to check out their website, sign up, follow me on Heroes Hearth. I don't bring out a lot of guides on Heroes Hearth, but when I do, they are some pretty cool guides. Thank you everyone for watching, and feel free to check out all of Heroes Hearth's content by clicking their YouTube channel, subscribe, and click that bell. Thank you guys once again.